Welcome! Today we will crochet a slipper sock. As we can see, this is how it looks. The slipper will suit size 38. So let's see how we will crochet it. But before we begin, we'd like to remind you to get all of our new videos. If you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, you can click the subscribe button now. And if you are already subscribed, make sure to activate notifications by clicking the bell. We will use 2 threads, each one will be a different type. This one is Ollie's Scarambibi, and the other will be S&G. They both have same thickness but different colors. We can choose either the 2 threads are same type or 2 different types as we did here. But it's important that the 2 threads are the same thickness. And we will use a size 4 hook. And we can also use size 4.5. The amount of yarn we will be using of each color will be less than the quarter of the roll, which is less than 25 grams. We will start off with a starting chain. We will start with 3 chain stitches. Then we make a ring by joining the very first stitch with the last stitch. And as we see, we will make just 3 chain stitches. We will crochet the slipper starting from toes to the heel. So we will start from bottom to top. We started with 3 chain stitches because we want the beginning part to be tight. We don't want the ring at the beginning to be wide, which will cause the slipper to be wide at toes part. So as we saw, we started with 3 chain stitches, and we made a ring by closing the very first stitch with the last stitch using a slip stitch. Now we're going to make 3 chain stitches and start making the first round with double crochet stitches. As we see, we insert the hook into the ring we made at the starting chain. And the first stitch we make is double crochet stitch. Insert the hook again into the ring. And make the second double crochet stitch. Continue the same way and make 14 double crochet stitches. We do all of them the same way. We insert the hook into the ring we made at the starting chain. The double crochet stitches should be rolled on the chain stitches, not inside the chain stitch itself. As we said, the first round will be 14 double crochet stitches. We make them all the same way. Now we completed 14 double crochet stitches. As we see, all of them are done through the ring we made at the starting chain. At chain number 3, we will close the round with a slip stitch. And that's how the first round looks. We will start the second round. We will start off with 3 chain stitches. Starting from the second round, we will be making front post double crochet stitches. The part of the slipper which will be on the leg will be done with front post double crochet stitches. In the first stitch, we will start making the first front post double crochet stitch. We will make 2 front post double crochet stitches. As we see, we insert the hook in the stitch from behind. And we make the front post double crochet stitch like that. At the first stitch, we made 2 front post double crochet stitches turning around it. The next stitch, we will make only 1 front post double crochet stitch turning around it. At the next stitch, we can see how the front post double crochet stitch is done. We insert the hook in the stitch from behind and pull the yarn. And continue making the front post double crochet stitch. But in this stitch, we will turn around it and make another front post double crochet stitch. So as we saw, starting from the second round, we started making front post double crochet stitches. At the first stitch, we made 2 front post double crochet stitches turning around it. The next stitch we made only one front post double crochet stitch. In the next stitch we made 2 front post double crochet stitches turning around it together. At the next we will make only 1 front post double crochet stitch. And we will continue on the same sequence. Making 2 front post double crochet stitches turning around 1 stitch. And at the next stitch we are making only 1 front post double crochet stitch. The next one will have 2. As we can see here, we made the first front post double crochet stitch. We go back to the same stitch and make a front post double crochet stitch. And we will continue on with same sequence to the end of the round. Now the second round is completed. At chain number 3, we will close the round with a slip stitch. As we saw, in the second round we started making front post double crochet stitches. And starting from the first stitch we made our way using the same sequence for the whole round, making 2 front post double crochet stitches turning around the first stitch. We made them both at the same stitch. At the next stitch we made only 1 front post double crochet stitch. The next stitch we made 2 front post double crochet stitches turning around it. And at the next stitch we made only 1 stitch and used same sequence for the rest of the round. 2 front post double crochet stitches, then 1 front post double crochet stitch, and then 2 stitches and then 1 stitch, and keep this sequence until the end of the round. We will start round number 3. We will make the whole round with front post double crochet stitches. They will be single stitches, so at every stitch we will be making only 1 front post double crochet stitch. And if you needed explanation for how front post double crochet stitch or any other stitch used in this video, you can check our crochet foundations videos on our channel and watch the specific video we made for every stitch. We are now working in the third round, making 1 front post double crochet stitch in every stitch. So there is no increasing in the third round. All stitches are single. At every stitch we make only 1 front post double crochet stitch. Now the third round is completed. As we saw, all stitches in the third round were front post double crochet stitches, all were single stitches. Then we will continue all rows in this part of the slipper, working with front post double crochet stitch. Only in the first round we use double crochet stitches so it can be a foundation for the rest of rows. And as we saw, the second round is the one that gave us the expansion. At that round the sequence was 2 front post double crochet stitches together. And the next stitch had 1 front post double crochet stitch and then 2 stitches and then 1. And we followed this sequence for the whole round. We completed round number 3 with single stitches without any increasing. We are going to make just 1 step to give us some width, and it depends on foot size. Because as we see, we are now crocheting the toes part and then we will be working on the widest part of the foot. So if we wanted to give this part more width depending on the desired foot size, we will repeat the same steps in 4th and 5th rounds. We will increase only 1 stitch in 4th and 5th rounds. But if we'd like to increase more, then we make 2 stitches in every round. Or we can increase in the 4th, 5th and 6th rounds. And the 7th also, so the increasing can be done by adding 1 stitch in each round, not just 4th and 5th rounds. So we will start round number 4 and we will increase 1 stitch in it. At the first stitch we will make 2 front post double crochet stitches together. We will continue making the whole 4th round with single stitches. so it's only the first stitch that we increased a stitch in it. Because we are increasing the size with only 2 stitches. And of course if we wanted more width, or if the width is fine and we don't want to add more width, so it's our choice to make it depending on the foot size. But as we saw here, we increased 1 stitch in this round. And we will also increase 1 stitch in the next round, because we don't want a huge increase, we just need to add little more width to give more comfort to this part. Because the desired width of the slipper was already made in the second round. After that there will be a slight width increasing that gives us some comfort. We'll then continue the fourth round. We started it with 2 front post double crochet stitches together. And the rest of the round will be with single stitches. Now round number 4 is completed. And as we saw, there was no increasing in round number 3. All stitches were single. But at the beginning of round number 4 we made only 1 increasing stitch. And continued the rest of the round with single stitches. We will start making round number 5. And here we will also make 2 front post double crochet stitches in the first stitch. They both will be turning around the same stitch. And we will continue the whole round with single stitches. As we said, this is the width we will be doing in this slipper. But if we want to increase the width, we can make another round with 2 stitches. And check to see if the width is fine. And if we needed more width, we can increase 1 more stitch in the next round. Or we can increase 2 stitches in the 4th and 5th rounds instead of 1 stitch for each round. So in each round we will make 2 front post double crochet stitches together turning around the same stitch. 2 front post double crochet stitches, and as we see here, we continue the rest of the round with single stitches. And at every stitch we make only 1 front post double crochet stitch. We said we will stop the increasing at round number 5. We will start round number 6. And starting from round number 6, and as we said, the increasing will be at the 4th and 5th rounds. All the next rounds we will make them the same way using only single stitches. There will be no increasing at all unless we wanted to add more width. And after that, we will make all rounds with single stitches. Working all of them the same way, all stitches are front post double crochet stitches. And at each stitch we make front post double crochet stitch. And this part will be 18 rows. This part will start from toes to the heel. So this part will be 18 rows. And as we said, this is the part where we can make some changes if we wanted to change the size. So here we will make 18 rows which will suit size 38. But if we wanted to change the size and make it bigger or smaller, size 38 means that the whole foot length is 24.5 centimeters. The part from toes to the beginning of the leg is approximately 17.5 centimeters. And those will be the 18 rows we'll be doing. But if we wanted to change the size to a bigger or smaller size, because the slipper can be made for men or children. So depending on foot length and sizes, the part from toes to the beginning of the leg is the part we can change. We will increase or decrease in rows number depending on the length of the foot. And since our size here is 38, we will make 18 rounds for this part. As we said, starting from round number 6 we stopped increasing and started making single stitches. and made only one front post double crochet stitch at every stitch. And now we are working in round number 6, so we will continue the same way. We are making the rounds until we reach round number 18. And now we completed this part starting from toes to the beginning of the leg. And as we said, this part was 18 round. All of them made with front post double crochet stitches. Now we will start the heel part. The heel part will be almost half a round or 2/3 of this round. So we will not complete the front part, as at this point there will be the leg. But we will make this bottom part because this is the part that will cover the heel. Now we will put a pin. We cut off the yarn so we can connect it to the part we will start with. Because as we said, it will not be full rounds. Now we go back the starting chains and count 9 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And at stitch number 9 we will connect the yarn and make 3 chain stitches. Because we will start working with front post double crochet stitches. But we also need to locate the second half, so at the starting stitches, we will count 9 stitches in the second half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And put the pin. And now we will work starting from this spot where we connected the yarn until we reach the pin. Then we stop and start making the next row this way. So at this part we will make rows, but we will do nothing in this part here. We will just work in this part, starting from this spot where we connected the yarn until we reach the pin. And this is the part which will cover the heels and both sides of the foot. We can also change the number of the 9 stitches on both sides depending on how much width we need for this part. If we wanted to have more or less width so it covers more or less space of the front, we can then change the number of the 9 stitches, but anyways we won't make a big change. It might be 1 or 2 stitches max, but it can't be much more or much less than that. Because as we see, the space left here is not much. It's almost suitable to give us the space we need, as we won't be covering this part of the slipper because it's the leg part. We will continue working in this part. And as we said, we will be doing front post double crochet stitches. So at the first stitch we will make front post double crochet stitch. And we will continue making front post double crochet stitches. Of course all stitches will be single stitches. We will continue until we reach the pin. Now we have reached the stitch where we put the pin and we will stop here. As we see here, this is the row that we will be making the rest of rows on it. We will start the new row. We will start the new row with 3 chain stitches. And to maintain the shape of the front post double crochet stitches, we are now working in rows. So when we reach the pin as we did now, we go our way back to the spot where we started. And we will be making back post double crochet stitches. As we can see here, the front post double crochet stitches are on the back side. So we will make back post double crochet stitches. We turn around the stitch from behind. We're doing this to maintain the shape of the front post double crochet stitches. So now we are doing the stitches this way to maintain the shape of the front post double crochet stitches at the slipper front. But because we are making the row from the opposite direction and we are facing the back side, so we are making back post double crochet stitches. You can also check our crochet foundations videos on our channel to learn how to crochet back post double crochet stitch. It's explained in detail if you'd like to see how it's done. As we can see, the front of the stitch is very clear in the front post double crochet stitches. So we turn around the stitch from behind. The only difference here is that the stitch is facing the back side and not facing us as we did in front post double crochet stitches. The front post double crochet stitches in this part was fronting us. But as we see here, this part is prominent but on the back side. As we can see here, we turn around this stitch from behind. But since it's on the back side, so we make back post double crochet stitches. Again, we are working this way to maintain the shape of the front post double crochet stitches at the slipper front as we see here. The back post double crochet stitches are back post double crochet stitches at the slipper front. So we will make this part depending on the direction. When we are facing the front, we will make front post double crochet stitches. And when we are facing the back side, as we are doing in this row here, we will make back post double crochet stitches. As we said, this is to maintain the shape of the front post double crochet stitches at the slipper front. Now we completed the second round. Now we will switch the direction. And we will be facing the front, so we will make front post double crochet stitches. We will continue making our rows this way. Now we started the third row. This part will be 9 rows. And it's also the part we can change to get different size. We explained how to change size in the first part. Changing the size or number of rounds depending on foot size from toes to the beginning of the leg. Also from this part to the end of the heel. We can control the number of rows depending on the length or size of the foot. As we explained, we calculate the whole foot length, then we measure the front part length from toes to the beginning of the leg. And then we calculate the length starting from this part here. And as we said, changing the number of rows increasing or decreasing will change the size accordingly. So we will make 9 rows in this part. And this will be suitable for size 38. As we specified where these rows started and ended, we continue making the rest of the rows with the same size we specified. And we will also consider changing the rows directions. In one row, when we are facing the slipper front as we see here, we are making front post double crochet stitches. And when we flip it and face the back side of the slipper, we will make back post double crochet stitches. So we will continue making the rest of the 9 rows in the heel part. Now we completed the heel part, making all rows the way we explained. This was the width of the rows as it wasn't fully completed rounds. And this the part we left on the front because this is where the leg will be. And we made 9 rows. As we see now, we need to close this part here to form the slipper's heel. So we will flip it on its back and fold it to 2 equal halves. Then we start connecting with the stitch on the other side. We will insert the hook in each of the opposite stitches. We folded these rounds into 2 equal halves. As we see here, we folded it on its back so we can make the stitches from the back side. So we folded it into 2 exact equal halves, and we will pull the yarn through each 2 opposite stitches. And connect them with a slip stitch. Insert the hook into the next 2 stitches and pull the yarn through each of them and connect them with a slip stitch. Insert the hook into the next 2 stitches and pull the yarn through each of them and connect them with a slip stitch. Continue connecting stitches the same way. Connect every 2 opposite stitches with a slip stitch. Last 2 stitches and we close this part. Now, as we can see here, the foot part is completed. It has the foot shape exactly. And the heel part is also finished. Now we will make the upper part of the slipper that will cover a little of the leg. This part here will cover the foot. We will start making some rounds to cover the foot. To make this part, we will choose one of the 2 colors we used here. But still, we are going to use 2 threads together to maintain the same thickness of the slipper. We will choose the gray color. As we said, we will use 2 threads together to maintain the same stitches thickness. At the connecting part here at the end of the heel, we will connect the yarn. And we will make 3 chain stitches. We will start the first row with double crochet stitches to be the foundation for this part. We need this part to have the proper width. We don't want to add more width to it. So if at every stitch on both sides we made the stitches as these ones shown here. Each stitch is split to 2 stitches, and they're also the parts where there will be starting chains for the previous rows. If we follow the same sequence by making same number of stitches in this part, this will result in more unwanted stitches, and we don't need that as it will cause more width. We need this part to be a little bit tight on the leg. So if during working we notice that we have some extra stitches, because as we said the sides don't have apparent stitches that we can change or modify. So we will do our best not to make a large number of stitches. And as we said, that's to make this part a little bit tight on the leg. And there won't be extra width in it. So what we will be doing here at the beginning of every round, we will be making 1 stitch at the beginning of every round. Especially in both sides here. These are the parts where it will be a little bit difficult to adjust the stitches. But the stitches at the front part here are very clear. Because it has stitches lengthwise, as we can see, so we will work on all stitches. But here at the side part we will make only 1 stitch for each row. But if we wanted to add more width, we can increase 1 or 2 more stitches in each side. As we can see, we are making only one stitch for each row. So we can make 2 stitches at this row. 1 stitch at the connection part here and the other one goes through this gap here. This way we will be adding 1 more stitch to the sequence we mentioned. Let's go back and make only 1 stitch at this row here. And another one at the second row here. And we can also make another one here. We are still working in one side. And we are still following the same sequence we mentioned before. We made 1 stitch for each row, but we added 2 more stitches here. So the width won't be so tight. And of course we can change the width depending on the size of the leg. As we need this part to fit the exact foot size. Then we will start working on the front part. And the stitches here are clear as we see. So at this part it'll be easier for us to make a double crochet stitch in each stitch. And we see here in this part we made it with double crochet stitches. Because it will be the foundation for the stitches we will be making in the next rows. Now we completed the front part. We will start working on the other side. And as we said, we will make the number of stitches to be the same as number of rows. But we can add 2 more stitches as we did in the other side. So the row won't be so tight. In general, we will adjust the width of this part depending on leg size. We will close the round at these stitches here. With a slip stitch. And that was the first round in this part, which will be on the leg. We explained how it's done without adding extra width. By making only 1 stitch for each row, so the number of stitches are the same as number of rows in heel part. But we added 2 more stitches for both sides. But the front part here had clear stitches. So we made only 1 double crochet stitch at each stitch, and as we said, we can change the width of this part depending on the size of this part of the leg. And regarding the amount of yarn, we clarified at the beginning. Because we used more amount of the gray color. So we will be using a little bit more than the quarter of the roll of the gray color. But the other color we will consume almost quarter of the roll as we mentioned. We will start making the second row. The gray part here will be 3 rows only. We made the first row with double crochet stitches. And we will show you how to make the other 2 rows. And this will be the height of this part. And if we'd like to add more height, we can increase the number of rows to the desired height. But now we will make 2 rows only. The first stitch we will make is a front post double crochet stitch. The next stitch will be a double crochet stitch. As we saw here, we made the stitch through this stitch, not around it. Then we will make front post double crochet stitch from behind this stitch. The next stitch will be a normal stitch. Insert the hook into the stitch and make a double crochet stitch. The next stitch will be a front post double crochet stitch. The next one will be a double crochet stitch. And this is the sequence we will follow for this row and the next row. This part will be 3 rows as we mentioned. At the first row set the size, and also we made it with double crochet stitches. So it was the foundation for the next rows. We will make second and third rows the same way. 1 front post double crochet stitch. And the next stitch is a double crochet stitch. We go through the stitch normally. The next one will be a front post double crochet stitch. And the next one is double crochet stitch. We will continue this round and the next one the same way. A front post double crochet stitch and then a double crochet stitch, then a front post double crochet stitch and then a double crochet stitch. We will continue this round and the next one the same way. Now we completed this part of the slipper, which will be on the leg. And we explained the last 2 rows. We made them with 1 front post double crochet stitch and then a double crochet stitch. Then a front stitch and a double crochet stitch. We also explained that this part was 3 rows. The first row we made it with double crochet stitches. We also said that this is the row where we will set the width depending the size of this part of the leg. So it must be the proper width to fit the leg size. And we explained how to make it the suitable size without adding more stitches. And this was the last step in making the slipper. Using the same way and same number of stitches, we will make the second one. The second one is completed and now we have a pair of slipper. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and share. And if you have any question, write it in the comments. Subscribe now if you want to get all our new videos. Than you.